Metro. This is one of the other vehicles you'll see in the museum, and no, guess what? It doesn't look like that anymore. This is back when we had our original four-car bay up on the hill, 5021 Perkins Road. This car was really interesting. We never really planned on this vehicle being a show vehicle. So once again, things just have a way of working out. This vehicle was purchased and still owned 100% by Steve Irby, bought it out of his pocket. He wanted this car. A neighbor, down the street from him had this vehicle, and Steve really wanted to buy this car, and the gentleman wouldn't sell it to him. So Steve kept pestering him, and after quite a while, he ended up being able to buy the vehicle. And this is, I think, the day that we brought it to the plant. It wasn't running. And, it was a nice looking, little vehicle, very original, but it didn't run. And Steve had a couple goals for it. He wanted, to do some things to it, but we were pretty busy doing a bunch of the other vehicles. So we not only pushed this thing around in the warehouse, I hear rumors that they would actually pick it up with the forklift and set it in the pallet racks when it was in the way, because it wasn't running. But it was, a couple of years after Steve got the vehicle that we had another car builder that was coming by that we were, putting some final touches on an install that was going to SEMA. And Steve talked to him and said, hey, I'm interested in, getting some work done on this car. I think Steve's requirements were, he wanted air conditioning, wanted wheels and tires, a nice paint job, a nice interior. So that was the basic four qualifications, and it kind of got out of control and ended up what it is now, which is not a bad thing. That's the slate we had to start with, just a pretty much blank door panel. Very nicely done vehicle. I mean, it's a really cute little car, and it really is comfortable to drive. I really actually kind of like driving it. Not that I've driven it a lot. Unfortunately, I've driven this car more than Steve has. I think I've put 40 miles on this car of the 106 it has in parades and, going to shows and whatnot. And it's a shame because it's such a neat little car. It's so much fun to drive, but you really don't want to drive it because it's so special. But so that's what we had to work with for the interior. Where are we going to put door speakers in this thing? So I got the idea that why don't we go ahead and build the door panel pods. We're going to have to build them out on the doors. But we've got a problem with room once again. 2 seats in this car, and they are really tight. I mean, you pretty much feed yourself into this car. There really wasn't room for a lot of airspace, and we know that when you put a speaker in a door or anywhere, they've got to have some type of airspace to allow them to move. So these door panels started out as a 1/4-inch aluminum backplate, and then we made this little shape in the top of the door and angled the speakers in a little bit to give them some character. And I'm going to tell you where this shape came from and why here in just a minute. But that's where we ended up deciding to put the front speakers. We had to build them onto the doors because there was absolutely no way we could build them into the door at all. So there's a look of the door finished. Now, where that shape came from, if you see anything else in the picture that looks like that, yeah, the door handle. So as I always tell people, blend things together. Everything should tie together. You should use the same material in the trunk as on the inside of the vehicle so it doesn't look like a whole separate entity. So the little build out here was to give some airspace for the speakers so you had decent mid bass, but you couldn't build it too big because, once again, you've got the seat. And the way this worked out, by doing that shape, this actually fits right over the bolster of the seat. So it allows the door to close, but we still have some airspace, and it almost works like an armrest. So it worked out kind of cool, and didn't plan on that. That's just kind of the way it worked out. Here's another picture where you can see the battery on the inside. That subwoofer enclosure had to pretty much be built in pieces and put into the car in pieces. We set it up for 2 L710s. Those are basically the L7 S10s, the cast basket. Sealed enclosure. You didn't have a big car, so we didn't need to do a huge vented enclosure. We wanted to build this car really for sound quality. So as we go to the next picture, here's the box. It's all painted. You see the subwoofers in place, and if you look closely, you see that same shape that we had on the door handle and that we put in the armrest area. So we carried that shape into the back, and then we're going to put some other chrome accents, which you'll see in just a minute. But the thing is, I've always told people, you want good wire, you want to do the wiring nice, but I still don't want to see any copper wire or plastic wire. So you got speakers with the magnets visible. How are you going to do that? And we ended up doing it by taking 1/4-inch copper tubing. That's actually copper plumbing, having it bent. Well, we bent it. It wasn't hard to bend with the little tubing benders. We bent it to shape, cut it to shape, and we sent it off and had that copper chrome plated, and we fed the wires through that copper tubing. And it was a real challenge to put those woofers in that enclosure because there is no space. So as the woofer is being moved in, someone had to turn this elbow, and someone had to pull that wire through on the inside to take up the slack. So it was a little bit of a challenge just to mount the woofers in that enclosure. And once they were mounted, like, don't you guys ever blow these, because I don't ever want to have to take them out. And to this day, they still are the original woofers, and they still sound fantastic. So here's a great view of the inside of the vehicle, all finished and put together with the gauges lit up. There's also a bar here underneath the radio. That is 5/8 half round steel that was chrome plated. So it matched, and let's go backwards, and it's a little hard to see because there's the same bar is run across here in the subwoofer enclosure. So those accents all tied together. Little 2.3 Ford engine. It's painted in 1928 metallic bronze. So nice little engine in there. It's not supercharged. It didn't really need a supercharge. That's pulled out of I think it was an 85 Ranger pickup from Ford. That was a donor engine they pulled out of one of their demo vehicles. And I always tell people the bottom of this car looks better than the top. It actually is. I mean, the top is gorgeous. It's smooth, it's streamlined. But if you look underneath the car, you see the detail and work that were done under this car. These long tubes that you see, that is 1-inch stainless steel that was bent, and it's painted on the top, that 28 Jaguar metallic bronze, and the bottom is actually brushed and then clear coated. But you notice how the body rolls clear underneath the car. So that's why it's really not practical to drive it, because the stones are going to come up and chip that. But the bottom of this thing is just gorgeous. So there's a picture of the outside of the car, finally finished. The whole molding on the side was custom built. Those are Mercedes C-Class headlights. The bumper, the front grille, everything was custom made for this car and all made out of steel. So whole lot of work.